After 15 years of waiting, Indy is back. And this time, let's hope there are no CGI gophers, Shia LaBeouf swinging on vines, or aliens. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner. Welcome to my review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the fifth and final film in the Indiana Jones franchise, and this is the first Indiana Jones film not to be directed by Steven Spielberg. Instead, we have James Mangold at the helm. And we have not only Harrison Ford back in the role of Indiana Jones, but we have new additions to the cast such as Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen. Set in 1969, Indiana Jones and his estranged goddaughter Helena Shaw are trying to retrieve an artifact that could change the course of history forever before it gets into the wrong hands. Now, Indiana Jones is one of my favorite action-adventure franchises of all time. Indiana Jones is one of my favorite heroes of all time. And Indiana Jones is a part of my childhood. I loved watching these movies and always imagined myself as Indiana Jones with the hat and the whip. And as for my thoughts on the Indiana Jones movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. An absolute classic in the action-adventure genre that introduced the world to Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones back in 1981. Spectacular action, especially the truck chase directed by Steven Spielberg, John Williams' fantastic score, and riveting story. It's definitely one of the best action films ever made and a top-tier Spielberg film. In 1984, we had Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Not as good as Raiders, and I find Willie unbearable and easily my least favorite Indiana Jones character. She was so annoying. But it's a sequel I've always enjoyed and had a soft spot for. I like that it's a lot darker than Raiders. It's a lot more violent than that movie. And Temple of Doom was actually influential in film history, inspiring the PG-13 rating due to how violent this film was at the time. I still think it's funny, it's got incredible action, especially that bridge scene and the climax. I've always loved that scene ever since as a kid. And Short Round is awesome, I love him so much. And also super happy that Ke Huy Quan had an excellent career comeback last year in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he won Best Supporting Actor earlier this year, super happy for that. And in 1989, we had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. While it's debatable whether Raiders is the best or Last Crusade is the best, and I'm on the side I think Last Crusade is the best Indiana Jones movie. From the heart, with the father-son bond between Indy and Henry, the latter of which an unforgettable performance from the late legendary Sean Connery, rest in peace. It's the funniest Indiana Jones film, it has the best action with high stakes, and that I felt like is where the franchise should have ended. But in 2008, we got a fourth Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. While not a movie I absolutely despise, it is one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen in my life. Harrison Ford is still great as Indy and does have its moments, but it gets bogged down by distracting and outdated CGI from the gophers and the jungle chase sequence. I never liked Mac as a character, and Indiana Jones surviving a nuclear explosion in a fridge, that's still the most ridiculous moment in the franchise. So King of the Crystal Skull to me, I think is meh. After the disappointment of the fourth film and would have preferred had the franchise ended with The Last Crusade, I was hesitant about Indiana Jones 5 happening. Another reason, this being the first Indiana Jones film not to be directed by Spielberg, I assume he was busy with his West Side Story remake and The Fabelmans. But what evoked my excitement was James Mangold being chosen to direct. After his great track record with movies such as Walk the Line, and I am planning to watch his remake of 3:10 to Yuma, and his Wolverine films, The Wolverine I find to be underrated and one of the best superhero movies of the 2010s decade, Logan, a masterpiece, and an excellent sports drama, Ford v Ferrari, one of the best films of 2019. With that track record, I was really excited to see what he could do with an Indiana Jones movie. After all, he gave an incredible swan song for Wolverine in Logan. Could he do the same for Indiana Jones? And when the first trailer came out, it succeeded at getting me enthused of one final Indiana Jones adventure with Harrison Ford. And despite feeling a little concerned for Harrison Ford's age at 80 years old, but nevertheless, this was still one of my most anticipated movies of the year. And when it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May, my skepticism was returning when I heard mixed reviews. And when Dial of Destiny came out on its release date, I was still hearing mixed reviews, which still concerned me. Some people enjoying it, in the middle, or just disliking it. But despite all that, I went in to see it open-minded, knowing it wouldn't come close to the original trilogy, but I was hoping it would be better than the fourth film. And now that I finally saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, what did I think? Is the movie bad? No. Is it a great movie? No. Does it entirely capture the magic of the original trilogy? I don't think so. But do I find Dial of Destiny to be a solid and entertaining conclusion to Indiana Jones and an improvement over Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? I can confirm, yes. Let's start this review with the pros. First, the performances are solid. Harrison Ford still does a terrific job as Indiana Jones, back in full swing like he never left the role. And it's apparent how much he clearly loves the role, and it's giving his all to it, pouring his heart and soul to it this time. Not only does he still does a good job in the action and stunt work despite his age, but I love where they took him here with his age, retirement, and what he's been through after 4 without getting into spoilers. Watching this movie, I'm glad that they didn't recast Harrison Ford, and it was great to see him one last time in the role. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Helena Shaw, Indiana Jones' goddaughter, was a great new addition with her intelligence, back and forth banter, and friction between the two. While I do prefer Elsa and Marion, she is definitely much better than Willie, and I didn't find her annoying, thank God. And our villain here, played by Mads Mikkelsen, I think he does a good job in the role, and he's clearly having a ton of fun in the villain role here. And yet another franchise with Mads Mikkelsen after James Bond, the MCU, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and now add Indiana Jones to that list. But the downside is, I felt like his villain was underwritten, and I really felt like they could have fleshed him out a bit more with his motivation, and could have given him a much stronger and more menacing presence. But this is another Mads Mikkelsen villain that I felt like was a little lackluster. I felt like he was a weak villain in Doctor Strange, and honestly, as much as I thought he was great as Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts 3, I felt like at times he was a bit of a generic villain in my opinion. And that's a shame because you have a phenomenal actor here like Mads Mikkelsen, but I wish he was given better material as a villain to shine here. I'm sure filling in Steven Spielberg's shoes was no easy task, and obviously he doesn't try to top him, but I thought James Mangold did a great, capable, and achieves impressive results behind the camera. He does a really great job at crafting well-executed action set pieces that are exhilarating to watch. From an excellent parade scene and a vehicle chase scene in the middle of the movie, those are two terrific highlights. Especially an enthralling opening action scene leading to a train scene. And that is quickly becoming one of my favorite opening scenes in an Indiana Jones movie. That made me really excited, setting up the main artifact, the villain, also giving me that vibe of a classic Indiana Jones adventure. And I felt like for the most part, James Mangold did a good job of trying to keep that fun Indiana Jones adventure vibe intact. And I do love that James Mangold did rely on practical locations and effects for this movie. There were a few times in the action scenes I could tell stuff that were done practically and were very well done. And for the most part, the CGI wasn't too distracting, I thought was good. And John Williams' score is fantastic as well. Love that he composed one final Indiana Jones movie here and great new themes as well. Sadly, I do have some flaws with this movie. I will get to those right now. Starting with my first flaw, while I was enjoying the first 2 acts of this movie, without spoiling anything, the climax of this movie in the 3rd act does start to go off the rails. I felt like it did have some of the weakest action of the film, and 2 particular decisions didn't entirely work for me. While I was really enjoying the first act of this movie and was on board, the 2nd act does have its pacing issues. This is the longest film in the franchise at 2.5 hours, and during the middle of this movie, I did start to feel that runtime. And there were moments in this movie where I felt like the runtime could have been trimmed. And there was one new character in this movie named Teddy. While he wasn't bad nor annoying, it did kind of feel like he was just a second short round, except not as funny or as memorable as him. While the CGI was good for the most part, didn't distract me too much. At times, there were some distracting CGI here and there. At the opening action sequence with a de-aged Harrison Ford, it unfortunately felt hit and miss. At times I was impressed. I was like, wow, that looks really good. But then other times it just looked a bit rubbery. That kind of took me out of the movie. I was like, doesn't look up to par. And during the vehicle chase scene, there was some obvious green screen here and there. In conclusion, while the magic of the first 3 isn't entirely there, and it does suffer from pacing issues and a weak climax, I found Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny to be an entertaining swan song for Indiana Jones. With Harrison Ford back in full swing, great directing from James Mangold, and exciting action set pieces. I can't understand why this film is receiving mixed reviews, and I think it's totally fine and do respect your opinion if you found this movie to be a mixed bag or just didn't like it at all. But for me, leaving the theater, I was satisfied with what I got. I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts on this movie if you're an Indiana Jones fan. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, either you want to see it in theaters or want to wait till it's streaming on Disney+, I do recommend you watch the movie for yourself, either you like it or not, so curious to hear your thoughts on that. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny 3.5 stars out of 5, a B. And admittedly, there were certain parts of this movie that needed improvement, but as for one final Indiana Jones adventure with Harrison Ford back, I enjoyed it for what it was. And as for my Indiana Jones ranking, where I'm going to include Dial of Destiny, number 5 is King of the Crystal Skull for me, number 4 is where we're going to put Dial of Destiny, 3, Temple of Doom, 2, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and number 1, The Last Crusade, so that's my Indiana Jones ranking. And if you would like to share your Indiana Jones ranking, feel free to share it down below. I'm looking forward to hear your ranking of Indiana Jones. And I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? If you've seen it, do you agree, disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to watching the film or not? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.